Happy February and welcome back to the Hunter's Quilt Mart Heirloom Bloom Block of the Month. Today we are working on Block 2. I will be completing it using the Bluebird's Nest fabric, and here it is using Parlor and Ambiance. It uses fabrics 1, 5, 7, and 9, and I'll be labeling each part as we go along to help you out. Let's get started. We're going to start by cutting fabric 1. I'm going to move these out of the way. Fabric 1 is a larger piece, and I have mine already folded in half. We need 4 of each cut, so this works really well for doubling it up and getting this done just a little bit quicker. So I'm going to start by trimming off this folded edge to give me a nice straight edge to start with, and I'm also going to trim off the top edge so I already have that straight edge ready. Okay, we're going to begin by cutting one strip off. So I'm making sure that I have it lined up right here, and I've got it lined up across here so I know it's nice and straight. And I'm going to cut one at this measurement. Remember, those measurements are available for you on page 11 in your pattern booklet. And then we're going to cut our next cut. So I've got it lined up. And I've got that one cut. So we're going to start by taking this first piece and turning it so that that straight edge that we had across the top is now over here at the side. And we need 4 squares. Since we have it doubled up, we're going to make 2 cuts. Okay, so we have 2 here and 2 here, and this is going to be A. Then we're going to take our other piece, and again, we're going to turn it so that the top is to the left because that's the side that we already straightened up. And we're cutting these just a little bit smaller, but still doing squares, and we need 4 of them again. So since it's doubled up, we only need to make 2 cuts. And there we go. Those 4 squares are going to be labeled B. And those are fabric 1. Next, we're going to cut fabrics 5 and 7, and we're cutting those together. They need the exact same cut. So I'm going to do my best to line up one corner. And I'm just going to start by straightening up these 2 edges. And then I'm going to spin it around. And I am lining it up. And I only need 1 square of each fabric. This is going to be your scrap. Fabric 5, fabric 7, and this is going to be fabric 5 is C, fabric 7 is D. And now we're ready for fabric 9. We're going to start by straightening up that left edge, just giving us a nice straight line to start with. I'm going to slide these up out of the way. And And we're going to make our first cut. And this one's going to be pretty big. We're going to move that off to the side. We're starting with this one. I'm going to straighten up that left edge. And we need one large square out of this one. We're going to be using this to create, flying geese. So there's our first piece, and that's fabric 9, and this is E. Now we're going to take our other piece, and we need 2 squares on this one, so we're going to make another cut. I'm going to turn it this way. I need to straighten up that edge again. And we need 2 squares. Making sure that's lined up good. There's square number 1. And square number 2. Those 2 are F. So now we have all of our fabrics cut, and it's ready to sew. We're going to start by making 4 at a time flying geese. The exact instructions for this are going to be on page 5 in your pattern booklet, but you're going to start with your A and E cuts. That's from fabrics 1 and fabrics 9. First, you're going to take all of your A's and draw a diagonal line on the back of each one. You're going to be cutting right on this line, so it doesn't matter what you use to draw your line. You're going to begin, after you've drawn all of those lines, you're going to take your fabric E and you're going to line up 2 of your fabric A's on opposite corners. And when doing that, your diagonal line should line up all the way across that. You can pin this if you'd like to keep it straight, which I'm going to do. So just a little pin off to the side, just to keep it from sliding around. And then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of the drawn line. So I have my 1/4 inch seam foot, and I'm putting the line right on the edge. Then we're going to spin it around. And we're going to sew back down on the other side. Okay, I'm using some scraps to use as a leader ender. Taking those pins out. And then we're bringing it back over and we're going to cut on our diagonal line. And then we're going to take these and we're going to press towards the background fabric or fabric 1. Be careful when you're pressing back that you're not stretching it. And then you're going to take your other 2 fabric A pieces and you're going to lay them on there so that they line up in the corner. And you can see that the line will go right here in between where it comes together. Right there, lining up on the edge. If you want to pin, you can. This is just one piece, so I'm going to be able to hold on to it. And your needle should go right in where those pieces intersect. And you're going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. Come back down. And then we're going to do the same for the other one, lining that up. Making sure that it goes right out there. And then we have both of them done. We're going to cut again on that drawn line. And that will make all 4 of the flying geese that we need for this block. And again, we're going to set that seam, and then we're going to press it back. To trim these, I'm going to show you how to trim with two different rulers. The one that I like to use is the Ultimate Flying Geese tool by Creative Grids. This one makes it really easy to trim these up very quickly. So you start where it says trim 1, and we're going to be using the G. So we're leaving our flying geese up this way, and we are lining up those diagonal lines to match the lines of the geese. So using this tool automatically will give us the 1/4 inch that we need for our seam allowance. And we're going to trim this side and across the top. And then we're going to turn it around and turn our ruler around. And again, we're using the G. And we will line up the lines this way and this way. And you'll see that it'll line up along the goose as well. And there it is, all trimmed. So I'm going to do a couple of that way. And then I will show you one way to do it with a regular ruler. So there's 3 of them all trimmed. And I'm going to do the last one with a regular ruler. I'm still going to start this way. And I need the halfway point to be at 3 3/4. And I need this little part right here. So as this line comes down, I need it to go right to the 4 because these are going to be 4 by 7.5 before we trim or before we sew them. And then we turn them around. And line it back up again. Your diagonal line should be lining up right there. And there's all 4 of them. So there's the flying geese that we had to make. Next, you're going to be making 2 at a time half square triangles using fabric F and B. So we're going to start with this one. We're going to turn this one over, and we need to draw a line on the back side, diagonal from opposite corners or 2 opposite corners. And then we're going to set it on top of fabric F, right sides together, and take it over to the sewing machine. We're going to draw or sew a 1/4 inch down each side. If you're using diagonal seam tape, instead of having your drawn line on the red line, you're going to put it on the black line off to the side. And now we're going to cut it right on that line. And then you're going to press to the darker fabric away from your background fabric. Okay. I am going to show you how to use the 6.5-inch triangle square up plus ruler. So if you want to do this, you do this before, if you want to use this ruler to trim, you're going to be trimming these up by putting the line right on the seam line, making sure that you have extra all the way around. And then you're going to trim both sides. Get rid of those little bitty pieces. And then there are little notches right there so that you can trim that and get those dog ears out of the way. And so there's one way to trim these. And then that one is ready. As soon as it's pressed, it'll be done. Or if you like to press them first, then we can square it up with a regular ruler. So you're going to put the diagonal line on your ruler right on that line. And then trim 2 of the sides. If you have a rotating cutting mat, you could use that at this time. Then you're going to flip it around and do the other side. This time you're wanting to line up the diagonal line and the lines on the sides. And then trim the excess fabric. And it's done. This will make 2 half square triangles using F and B, and you're going to make 4 all together, and then you're going to make 2 using C and B, and 2 using D and B. And now we're ready to put the whole block together. We're going to start by making a pinwheel in the center. Fabric C is going to make this corner. Then you're going to have fabric D here, fabric C again, and fabric D, whoops, right up here. So it makes this pinwheel. Looks just like that. And you're going to start by sewing these 2 together, and you're going to press to fabric C. So I'm going to put these together like this, and then take them to the sewing machine. We're lining up these corners up here, and I'm making sure these are nested right there. And then our next one, we're going to start with the corners up here, making sure that that's nested nice and tight. Okay, and then I'm lining up the corner down here. And we're going to press to set the seam, and then we are opening this up and pressing towards fabric C. This is actually fabric 5, but cut C. This one we're going to flip back the other way because we want it to go to fabric C or fabric 5 as well. And then we're ready to sew that together. We're making sure that when we line this up, we can feel that nested seam right there in the middle. Okay, over at the sewing machine, we're going to line up these opposite corners. And then I'm going to make sure that that's nested really well. Because I didn't cut them apart, it's kind of like a little pin holding those together. Lining up these corners over here. And then we're going to press it so that fabric C is up at the top. That went together pretty nicely. So there's our center pinwheel. And we're going to take our flying geese and we're going to put them with the background sides facing our pinwheel. And we're going to take our half square triangles and make sure that our background fabric is pointing out and away. And there we go. Now we just have to sew this together. I'm going to start up at the top, sewing these two first. Lining up those corners, getting it started, and then I'm going to line up these corners down here. Grabbing our next two fabrics, and I'm lining up these corners here. With this one, the seam that is right here is going to match up with the point of our flying geese. So you'll be able to see right there that it's lined up. You can always pin if you prefer. Then I'm going to line up this corner. Then we're going to grab our bottom section. And we're folding it over, matching up these corners up here. Take a couple stitches, and then I'm going to line up these corners down here. These seams do not nest on this. They're going to stack on top of each other, so there's going to be quite a bit of bulk right there. But you can feel underneath where it's lined up. And I'm also going to use this to help hold it in place. Bring it over to press it. When you're pressing these, you are pressing towards the middle triangle. So I'm going to do that one first. Or excuse me, I'm pressing towards the pinwheel right in the middle. And towards the half square triangles on the outside. So flip it back this way. And there it is so far. Then we're going to take these and flip them over on top of this. And I'm going to do that all the way down. And take it over to the sewing machine. And we're starting up at the top. Going to line those corners up. And then making sure the corners down here are all lined up. For our flying geese that we're putting next to the pinwheel, we're lining up this opposite corner. And then I'm going to make sure that the line here is lined up with the point on my flying geese. And then we have our half square triangle down at the bottom, lining up that far corner. Getting it started, then I'm lining up these corners down here. Remember, those are the stacked seams. To help hold them down. We're going to bring it over to our ironing mat. The top piece goes towards the half square triangle. The middle section goes towards the pinwheel. You do not have to keep these all together. You can separate them out. Might make it a little bit easier to press. And in this bottom row, we're going towards the the half square triangle again. Now we just need to sew the two parts together. So I'm going to start with this part. Taking it over to the machine. Lining up these corners. Once I get that started, I'm going to make sure that these seams right here nest. So you can feel where they're coming together underneath your finger. And again, the point is going to line up with the seam from the pinwheel underneath. Now I'm going to make sure that these are nested really well. Lining up this corner right over here. And then we're going to take this side and flip it over, and we're lining this up again and doing the same to the other side. Again, I'm making sure that those seams are nested right there as we're going along. Making sure that those are lined up. I can feel my seam flipped, so put it back down. For this, we are pressing towards the pinwheel. So put the pinwheel on the top and then fold it back. Then I'm going to flip it over and do the same to the other side. Setting the seam first. And then flipping it back. I'm going to press it with my fingers first to make sure I get everything lined up. None of it's twisting. And there it is. That's block number 2. Thank you so much for joining us this month. We'll see you next month for block 3.